They came with hot dogs and lawn chairs. They left in a panic. The HOA thought my private property was their new park. What they didn't know, I run a licensed grizzly bear sanctuary here. And on that day, one bear made sure they'd never forget it. My name is Nate Hartley. For a long time, nobody really knew what I did out here. That's fine by me. Some people collect cars. Others grow roses. Me, I take care of a bear. Her name's Maple, and she weighs 600 pounds. She's not a pet. She's not a tourist attraction. She's a survivor. See, I run a legally licensed grizzly bear sanctuary. 78 acres of forest and riverbank passed down to me by my uncle. It's not fancy. It's not open to the public. Maple's my only resident right now, and that's kind of perfect. She's here because she can't be anywhere else. Injured once by illegal traps, she's distrustful of people but gentle if you give her space. My job is to make sure she gets that space. State permits, daily logs, reinforce enclosures, recall routines. We've got it all. It's calm work. Quiet. You learn to think like a bear. You wake up early. You walk your fences. You respect the boundary lines. Maple knows hers. The problem is, people don't always know theirs. Across the creek is the Lakeside Meadow subdivision. Pastel townhouses, flowerbed mailboxes, and rules for everything. Homeowner association territory. The kind of place where they measure your grass. The head of the HOA is a woman named Karen Freeman. She thinks my land is an eyesore. I think her clipboard's a weapon. We've never spoken, but I've seen the way she looks over here. Back then, I thought we could just leave each other alone, keep our distance. I locked the gates, posted the signs, stayed quiet. But boundaries only work. Fences only matter when both sides respect the line. One afternoon, that all changed, and it started with a flyer nailed to my front gate. The HOA said they were throwing a peaceful neighborhood picnic. Funny, they never mentioned the part where the picnic site was already licensed grizzly bear territory. This wasn't a barbecue. It was a land grab, and they thought I wouldn't notice. It started with a flyer, glossy, full color, tacked right to my front gate like it belonged there. Big, cheerful letters at the top read, Lakeside Meadows' first annual community picnic. There were balloons, hot dogs, games, the whole suburban fantasy. And right at the bottom, a warm invitation to join the fun at our very own scenic community meadow. Here's the thing. There isn't a community meadow. There's my meadow. And the photo on their flyer, the one with golden grass and a shimmer of river through the trees, that was absolutely taken from my side of the creek. There's no mistaking it. Same bend, same split rail buffer, same warning sign, cropped out of frame. At first, I was more confused and angry. Maybe it was a mistake, a mix-up. Maybe someone new on the HOA didn't understand the parcel map. I went inside, grabbed the hard copy from my filing cabinet. Same one my uncle notarized 20 years ago. Plain as day. Everything east of Swift Creek belongs to the Hartley Conservation Trust. No question. Still, I figured a calm heads-up might save us all some trouble. I printed out the official boundary chart, circled the property line in bright red, and walked it over to the HOA office myself. The woman at the desk glanced at it like it was on fire. "I just work here," she muttered. "Talk to Karen." So I called the sheriff. Third time in 6 months. Told him there might be a trespass issue brewing over the weekend. He sighed like I'd interrupted his lunch. "We'll send a car, probably Monday," he said. "It's Tuesday," I reminded him. "Then it's a busy week," he replied. "Document everything." That's when it hit me. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a test. A slow creep over the line to see if I'd say anything. And that flyer? That was step one in rewriting the story of whose land this really was. Me versus a picnic might sound harmless, but I knew better, because this wasn't a party. This was a land grab, staged with corn dogs and good intentions. And they were planning to hold it less than 200 feet from a legally protected, fully fenced-in grizzly bear. I didn't even leave my porch. I didn't have to. From where I stood, I could see the moment it all went wrong. A smiling crowd, a stomp sign, and one curious grizzly bear watching it from across the river. Saturday arrived like it didn't know what was coming. The sun was bright. The breeze was gentle. And my stomach? Tight as a tripwire. I was up before dawn checking gates, cameras, and locks, especially the one on the North Service gate. It held, but barely. I'd marked that latch for upgrade weeks before. Now I had to survive a crowd who didn't belong there. At 9:03 a.m., the first minivan pulled into the HOA's gravel clearing across the creek. By 9:45, the entire turnout looked like a line of pastel dominoes. Parents, strollers, kids with balloons, folding chairs, speakers bumping feel-good music. It was a neighborhood takeover, only this neighborhood wasn't theirs. And then came Karen Freeman. White pantsuit, clipboard, stage mic. She looked like she was running for mayor of Delusion. She climbed onto a collapsible platform and spoke like a cruise director. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us on our first annual Community Meadow celebration. That word again, community. Like saying it enough would make it true. I cupped my hands and called across the water. Ma'am, you're trespassing on private land, dangerous land. She glanced at me, ignored it, and spoke louder. We got three-legged races starting in 5 minutes, and a petting zoo toward the trees. Petting zoo? I scanned the area. No goats. Just a rabbit in a playpen and kids running wild. I grabbed my megaphone. This meadow is part of federally recognized wildlife sanctuary. My grizzly bear is 600 pounds and lives just beyond those trees. Move back across Swift Creek. Now. She smiled at the crowd and waved me off like background noise. Several parents hesitated, but most followed her breezy confidence. They stepped over the creek, past the danger signs, across the line. At first, Maple didn't move. She had spent her morning half dozing in the main enclosure, deep among the tree trunks. The river forms a natural barrier, her fence the artificial one. She's used to peace, quiet. But this was a circus at full volume. By early afternoon, soccer games were in full swing. Music, laughter, kids chasing kites. One frisbee flew too far and landed just inside the buffer zone. A teenager jumped the split rail to grab it. As he did, Maple stirred. Something in the tone of the noise, a dog barking, or maybe the shrill music, made her lift her head. For 30 seconds, she watched. Then, like any sentient creature disturbed in her home, she stood up. I was already recording. From 100 yards away behind her 12-foot fence, Maple stepped forward, not charging, just watching. Curious, not angry. But no one cared about her body language. They saw size, muscles, fur, a bear. The scream hit first, high-pitched, panicked. One parent, then another. Folding chairs clattered. Coolers spilled. Dozens of people ran directionless, like deer when lightning hits. Within seconds, it was chaos. 3 dozen people trampled right over the same danger sign my camera had been trained on. One teenager fell. Someone tried to help him but hit the locked HOA chain on the service lane. An ambulance, probably for a twisted ankle, had arrived but couldn't get through. I ran, bolt cutters in my hand, snapped the gate they had blocked. EMTs rushed through. The boy, he'd live. My rage, it was just getting started. Then came the sound I never wanted to hear. Metal on metal, popping loose. The North Service gate. The old latch had failed under crowd pressure. The entire fencing system was designed with layers. But they'd slammed it hard. And Maple, she stepped through the outer corridor. For exactly 67 seconds, the bear was outside her enclosure. Not in the crowd. Not charging. Down by the river, sniffing grass, confused. I called her name, switched the recall light, tossed the lure back to the open doorway. Maple looked back once, then returned. Slow, calm, controlled. I slammed the emergency bar and locked the gate. No one was hurt. No contact was made. The real danger didn't come from the bear. It came from ignoring every single sign meant to stop this. The moment she crossed that line, the air changed. Nobody saw safety protocols. Nobody saw the years of care. They saw fur, teeth, and fear. And for 67 seconds, I felt everything I built slipping through my fingers. Maple had stepped into the outer service corridor, technically still fenced, but outside her secure habitat. The gate's latch had snapped under pressure, just like I feared. One bad weld, one unreinforced hinge. I had it circled on my maintenance board for weeks, and now it was too late for preventative anything. She wasn't running or roaring. She wasn't even close to the crowd. People were the ones charging away from her. Maple just ambled down to the riverbank, ears twitching, sniffing the air like it was any other day. But to the screaming crowd, she might as well have been a monster. I was in motion before the first scream echoed across the field. Hand on the recall switch, I slid the panel to green, Maple's target color. Then I thumbed the klaxon, one long tone, 5 seconds. Official-soaked lure hit the ground in her den doorway. She paused. Looked back. Her ears caught the sound, and her nose smelled home. That was the moment. She came back, lumbered inside like none of it mattered. And the second she crossed the threshold, I slammed the double bar and dropped the backup lock, made from solid steel. 67 seconds outside the primary. No injuries. No roaring bears. Just a wildlife rescue wandering in the wrong place at the worst time, because people couldn't read a sign. But the cameras didn't care about what didn't happen. They got a shot, Maple knee-deep in the slow shallows, backlit by sun, framed by panic, people bolting, faces twisted in fear. One mom dragging her cooler with one hand and her daughter with the other. And in the bottom of the picture, one brutal irony. A red and white sign that read, Danger, Grizzly Habitat, Do Not Enter. That image would end up everywhere. On the news, on social media, on every HOA page within 100 miles. But what they wouldn't show is the 7-mile buffer path between Maple and those people, or the 40 feet of river, or the 12-foot steel fence, or the fact that she listened, came home, and did absolutely nothing wrong. They had their image now. And once people see fear in a picture, they stop caring about the facts. The truth wasn't going to fit neatly in a headline, but I had those 67 seconds burned into every corner of my mind. And the worst part wasn't what happened. It was knowing what people were going to say next. By nightfall, the screaming had stopped, but something worse had started. They weren't just telling a different version of what happened. They were building a lie, and in their version, I wasn't the guy who saved people from a bear. I was the guy who let her loose. I sat in my office that night, still in my field gear, still smelling like river water and fish oil. My hands trembled from the adrenaline drop, but I wasn't shaking from fear. I was shaking from fury. I thought the worst was over. The bear was safe. No one was hurt. It was a clean save. I was wrong. At 7:18 p.m., a neighbor messaged me a link with a note. You need to see this right now. It was a video posted to the Lakeside Meadows community page. The thumbnail? Maple mid-step. The caption? Bear breaks out during community event. Man encourages attack. I clicked play. At first, it showed the chaos. People running, kids screaming, the kind of shaky footage designed to go viral. But then came the audio. My voice, but not how I said it. Get M, girl. That's right, run 'em off. Chills hit every inch of my spine. That was my voice, clipped and distorted. It was pulled from an old training video on my website. A clip from years ago, when I tossed an enrichment toy to Maple and said, "Get it, girl." They twisted that moment into something monstrous. Then came the final touch of manipulation, the sound of a rattling chain and a loud creak, like a cage door opening. Fake, staged, but edited so smoothly, the average viewer wouldn't question a thing. Within minutes, the comment section exploded. This man set a bear on children. He should be arrested. Put the animal down before it kills someone. And just like that, I wasn't the guy with the camera and the protocol. I was the bogeyman who trained a predator to do his dirty work. The bear came home. But my reputation? It was already out in the wild. They'd built their lie with fear. I was going to crush it with facts. I didn't need to yell. I had footage. I didn't need to argue. I had timestamps. And I wasn't fighting alone anymore. The first call I made wasn't to the sheriff. It was to Buddy Chase, my best friend, and a digital forensics wizard with a serious specialty in nonsense. He designs websites, builds servers, and can take a fake video apart pixel by pixel. "Tell me you still have all your raw footage," he said. "I have everything," I replied. "Trail cams, drone logs, security feeds, my body mic, even the lure cam inside Maple's primary gate. The edit they pushed might have tricked a crowd, but not our files. My cameras don't lie." Buddy reviewed it that night. His voice came through my speakers like mission control. "That audio? Spliced. Gate noise? Stock effect. Voice line? Pulled from your enrichment demo back in 2019. It's a fraud, Nate, and we can prove it." At the same time, I sent the clean footage and full property map to a local journalist I trusted, Jonah Pike. No corporate slant. No sensation. Just a guy who still believed truth had teeth. We weren't going to yell. We were going to expose. Every second, every sound, every frame. They fired first with fiction. Now it was our turn. They played the video in front of a packed room. Her version first. It was dramatic, emotional, dangerous. But when mine played, the silence was deafening. The truth didn't shout. It didn't need to. It just exposed everything. The hearing room was small, hot, and painfully quiet. People stood shoulder to shoulder, neighbors from both sides of the creek, reporters, lawyers, even a state rep, at one table. Karen Freeman, perfectly composed, back straight, flanked by legal muscle in a $1,000 suit. At the other table, me, my lawyer, a folder thick with evidence. Karen's lawyer started smooth. He painted a story, a dangerous man with wild animals, a menace living outside city expectations. A bear incident turned attack. Then the video, edited, twisted, played on a large screen with perfect dramatic timing. Gasps, whispers, just what they wanted. But then we stood up. My lawyer, Dave, was calm and cold. No theatrics, no anger, just facts. We played our footage. Multi-angle, real-time, uncut, timestamps burned in. The fence, the warning signs, the recall klaxon, Maple turning on command. Every second accounted for. Then we broke down their video, line by line. We showed the audio splice and the waveform, the source of the voice clip, the stock gate sound used from a free sound library, the van's license plate that fled during the midnight attempt, the wire transfer from HOA funds to the shell company that sent them. And finally, we dropped the bomb. An entire email thread where Karen knew the land wasn't hers, where she said, "We'll establish a precedent. It's better to ask forgiveness than permission." Forgiveness? The board didn't buy it. The DA didn't buy it. And by the time the deputies clicked the cuffs around Brent's wrist and opened the investigation into Karen, nobody bought it at all. 6 months later, no one's throwing picnics across the creek anymore. The land is quiet. Maple is safe. And for the first time in a long time, I can breathe. Karen Freeman resigned. Her house hit the market quietly. The HOA was overhauled from the ground up. I got a written apology from the new board, and along with it, something I never expected, cooperation. See, instead of trying to take my meadow, they helped build something better. On their side of the creek, legal HOA land, we built a small wooden viewing deck, raised up with safe rails and a binocular scope facing Maple's river bend. Now, on quiet weekends, families come to watch her nap or fish for grubs. No loud music, no bounce houses, just whispers and pointing fingers and kids in awe. Dr. Chan brings university students. Schools bring classes to learn about habitat and harmony. And slowly, the past becomes a lesson, not a wound. The scars are still there. What they said about me, about Maple, about our work, those cuts were deep, but they taught me something. Sometimes holding the line isn't loud or heroic. Sometimes it's just one quiet person refusing to let the truth be erased. Every time I walk the fence, I tighten the gate by hand. I check the sign. I touch the old well that failed. And I remember You protect what's wild by respecting what's yours and what isn't. And when someone forgets that, you remind them, not with rage, but with facts. And sometimes with a bear named Maple. Thanks for sticking with me through this story. If it moved you, made you think, or made you mad, that's the point. Real boundaries matter. So do the people brave enough to protect them. If you believe in telling the truth, no matter who tries to bury it, hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Have you ever been pushed past your line? Share this video if someone needs to hear it. And remember, sometimes the loudest power is staying calm, standing firm, and never moving when it matters the most. Thanks for watching, and tell Maple I said hi.